everybody. How are you doing today? Hope you're doing well. I'm gonna go ahead and get our, where's the screen share button? Oh, there it is. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and get our PowerPoint loaded for today. And yeah, I'll introduce the topic. Um, yeah, and myself, of course. So my name's Miss Grace. I am 36 years old and I live in Kunming, China. And there's a picture of me in my house. Could you please just type in what your name is, where you are living currently, what grade you are in? Just put it into the chat box. I want to see who we all have today. Oh, now I hear somebody's. Okay, let's see. The chat. Oh, Beijing, 6th grade, true. Nice to meet you, Fiona. All right. Oh, let's see. Shanghai, 5th grade, Raichi, grade 9, Shanghai. Hello, guys. So we got a lot of people here from China. Do we have anybody from Canada? Oh, Canada, Beijing, 1st grade, Shanghai. Michael Yang. Hi, Michael Yang. Michael Young. Cool. Is anybody in the US right now? Bella in Beijing. Cool. Well, nice to meet you guys. Sorry, Young. I know, Y-A-N-G. It's not Yang, it's Young. Sorry. How you said. Anyway, yeah, I live in China and I've lived here for about 10 years. I think it's a great place to live. And thank you China for letting me be here. So anyway, yeah, great to see where y'all are from. Cool, Harry. Nice. Okay. So before we talked about today's topic, this is important, okay? We are going to talk about something where maybe you have a feeling where you're like, oh, I'm so happy, I love this thing. Or maybe you're like, oh, I do not like this person, okay? We're going to discuss about the life and the history of the current US president and vice president, okay? Do not talk to me. Please do not ask questions. Oh, do you like this president? Oh, do you like Donald Trump? Because I will not tell you, okay? Either way, this is the US president and this is the US vice president, and they are the leaders of my country. So I have to respect them because in democracy, which is what America is, we choose our leaders, and sometimes the person you like wins, sometimes the person you don't like wins, but either way, we still need to be respectful and kind. So today, I want to encourage you, okay, to be respectful of this person just because they are the current US president, okay? So do not ask me, do you like this person? Because I will not tell you, okay? This person is a president, so I have to respect them because if I don't, my country does not have a leader, right? So this is democracy. So yes. All right, so cool. Yeah, y'all got that? Do you understand? Okay, so it's not about how I feel. I just want you to know about who these people are because you're going to see a lot about Vice President Joe Biden, or sorry, President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris for the next 4 years. You're going to see them in the news a lot. So we should know who they are, a little bit about their life story. Okay, so first question. How many women vice presidents or presidents have there been in the US? How many? Can you guys tell me? Yes, very good. One. Okay. The first female vice president in the United States is Kamala Harris. So actually, this is a historic event in US politics. Like there's never been a woman as vice president before. So it's kind of a big deal. We need to know a little bit more about these people, okay? So this is what the book we're going to be talking about today, President Joe Biden. Yeah, she's actually African American and Indian, okay? Her dad's actually, well, you'll find out more about that later. So I wanted to find some books on Kamala Harris too, but actually there's no books on her yet. So I just kind of put some extra things together for you to know about who she is as well. But either way, I hope this will be an interesting lecture for you guys today. Okay, so here's Joe Biden. This is Kamala Harris. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's check out our book. Joe Biden jogged onto the stage. The crowd cheered and clapped. The United States had voted, and the results were in. After days of counting, it was announced that Joe would be the country's next president. Joe spoke to the crowd. He promised to help build a stronger nation. So this is Joe Biden after he had won the election. He won the most votes for president of any president in United States history. A record of 75 million people voted for him. So he actually had, there was quite a few people that voted in this recent election in the US. And yeah, he won, I think, the popular vote as well as the electoral vote, which that's something else too. But Joe's fans across the country cheer as he took the stage. So a lot of people, yeah, it's the exact numbers. So this book said 75 million. CNN reported 78 million. Yeah, sometimes different news agencies. That maybe this 75 million maybe was before the absentee ballots were put in. So this maybe was a day of the election, how many votes came in. Because people like me, I live overseas, I can ask my embassy to give me a ballot, and then I can vote, and then I mail it back. But my ballot won't get in until after the election sometimes. So that's why you get different numbers sometimes. Does that make sense, Brandon? Yeah, so CNN maybe had 78 million because they counted absentee ballots. So this is actually what the map looked like in the end. I don't know if you guys paid much attention to it, because if I was a 10-year-old, I wouldn't pay much attention to it. But all the blue ones, these are the states that Joe Biden won, and the red ones, those are the states that Trump won. Okay, so in the US election, we have this other system that's kind of a little strange called the electoral system. And you need to get 270 votes to win, and each state kind of has a different value. And some states like California has a ton of people, so California has a lot of electoral votes. But then a small state like Colorado maybe only has like 10 votes, so not very many. So it's we have kind of we have the popular vote, but then the vote that really matters is the electoral vote. So Joe Biden actually won the electoral and the popular vote this year or last year. So yeah, why 270? Because that's more than half. So if he got 269 and he had 271, then the other guy would have won. So yeah, it's a little bit different, a little bit confusing. I'm actually going to talk about the electoral college system next week, because increasingly the electoral college is becoming more and more important and making things a little bit more confusing with the election. So yeah, we don't just count, oh, this person has more popular votes. There's actually a whole nother thing. So yeah, if you want to learn more about the electoral college, you should tune in next week. Ta-da! So this is the US president number 47, Joe Biden, and this is the first US female vice president, okay, Kamala Harris. All right, so anyway, moving on. Hardworking Joe. So Joseph Robinette Biden Jr. was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania on November 20th, 1942. When he was young, Joe stood out because he had a stutter. Other children at school made fun of him. Joe's parents taught him to stand up to bullies. They told him that being different didn't mean he couldn't do great things. Joe took this advice to heart. Have you guys ever had somebody be mean to you? Like maybe there was something you couldn't do very good, and maybe another kid was like, "Oh, you're just so stupid. You can't do math as good as me. I'm better at math. You're so dumb." Has that happened to you? Okay, we call that bullying in English, bullying. So Joe Biden, he had something called a stutter. Can you guys say that? Stutter. Okay. Um, and this meant he spoke differently. Okay. So, he actually had some problems. Okay. So stutter. Okay. That's an example of a stutter. Okay. People with stutters, they have a hard time forming certain words. Okay. And finishing certain words. Um, this can get worse when people are nervous. Like, yeah, sometimes, like, when you're scared, is it easy to speak when you're scared? Like, for me, if I'm scared or I'm nervous, I find it really hard to speak. Now, if you ask me to speak Chinese when I'm scared or nervous, I can't say anything, okay? Um, Joe's stutter was so bad. I don't even know if it was so bad, but he had a really mean teacher, because even his teacher one day started like making fun of him for stuttering. Like, that's horrible, right? Um, But, his parents supported him and his parents encouraged him and he overcame the stutter, right? So, sometimes we think that these people that are world leaders, we think that these people that do all these amazing things, we think, oh, they don't have any problems. Their life is so easy. But actually, he had a really hard time. And now he's the president of the United States and he doesn't stutter anymore, but he had to overcome that. So, I want to encourage you guys. Maybe there's something that you have that's not so easy. Maybe you have a stutter, or maybe there's something else that's kind of hard for you to do. You know what? You can overcome it, okay? Everybody has hard things in life that they have to overcome to do great things, okay? So, yeah, I want to encourage you, if you maybe are scared to talk or you have a stutter or something, don't worry, keep trying, don't give up, okay? So, anyway, he overcame and is now the president of the United States. So, I say he overcame that. So, can you guys think of some things that you've had to overcome? Okay. If you don't want to say, it's okay. But, like for me, for example, I have something called dyslexia, where I actually will flip the words around and I'll flip the letters upside down, and it makes it really hard to read things. But I've had to overcome that. Okay. Are there anything? Yeah, I have dyslexia. Um, Math problems, yes, some math problems are cumbersome to me. I agree. But I've had to overcome that, okay? So we all have things in our life where we have to overcome. And just because you have a problem that maybe makes you talk a little bit differently or think a little bit differently, it does not mean you're stupid. We all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses, and we all have things that we have to overcome, okay? So, you know, keep going. You got this, guys. Okay? All right. So anyone? No? That's okay if you don't want to say it, that's okay. But we all have things we need to overcome. Anyway, Kamala Harris. Okay? So she was born in 1964 to Jamaican and Indian immigrants. So Jamaica is a little tiny country well, it's not that tiny, but it's off the coast of off the coast of North America. And her parents were immigrants, which means they weren't born in the U.S., but um, they actually came to the U.S. from another country. But when she was a kid, her parents divorced. She was only 7 years old, and they broke up. Okay. Her mother, though, being a single mother, wanted to make sure that her kids were connected to both their Indian heritage, their Indian history, and also to American culture. So the mother took her children to both a Hindu temple to learn about their Indian heritage, and also to a Baptist church to learn more about America. So Kamala Harris actually has this really interesting combination of views. So she is a natural born American citizen, so she can be the president of the United States someday. Um, but she also has a very diverse view, right? She doesn't have the same view as just somebody who grew up in, going to like a Christian church the whole time. Like, she actually has different religions in her family. Yes, Kamala Harris has been born in the United States. So actually, there's actually a couple rules. So in the US, if you want to be president of the United States, you have to either be born in the United States. Okay, so like Barack Obama, one of his parents were from, I forget. I forget where Barack Obama, he had one dad who was from outside the country, but he was born in Hawaii and his mother was actually American. Kamala Harris, both her parents were immigrants, but she was born in the United States. So in the US, you can either be born to American parents, and so like if I have a baby in China, my baby is still considered an American citizen, and my baby could still run for president in the United States. Okay. Or if you are born in the United States and you're not actually, your parents are not American or not American citizens, then you can be the US president too. So that actually applies to all people. And that's because actually the United States is a nation that was built on immigration. So, the first people, like the only reason we think like the white person is American is because, you know, 400 years ago, a bunch of white people came to America. Before that, it was actually a bunch of Native Americans who, well, Christopher Columbus thought they looked like Indians, so he called them Indians. So yeah, in the U.S., we allow people that are either born in the United States on the land, we give them full U.S. citizenship, or if you're born to an American an American parent, then you're fully American. So anyway, all right. One other interesting thing about Kamala, she was actually part of the first racial integration busing in America. So, man, like only like 60 years ago, yeah, 60 years ago, not even 60 years ago, like 55 years ago, before civil rights movement, like they had schools for Black people, schools for white people, schools for Chinese people, and what ended up happening was the schools with the white people ended up getting better education. The schools for the Black people and the Chinese people didn't get as much resources for education. But then during the civil rights movement in the 60s, they started to integrate, which means if you take your hands, you look. So if we imagine like these are Black people, these are white people, they started, okay, let's put the Black and the white kids together so that they're all getting the same resources. Okay, so what they did is they actually would take kids from white neighborhoods and kids from Black neighborhoods, and they would put them on buses to one school so that they all could kind of get equal education. So Kamala Harris was actually part of the first racial integration for busing in California, which is kind of cool. Her name actually is really cool. I found this out when I was doing research. She's named after the Hindu god Lakshmi. This is a Hindu god of woman empowerment and the lotus flower. So actually her name is like all like women's rights too. And this is a famous poster about women's rights. And this is a Hindu goddess Lakshmi. All right, anyway, back to Joe Biden. We're going to kind of bounce back and forth a little bit here. When Joe was 10, his family moved to Claymont, Delaware. A few years later, he started going to the Archmere Academy, a private Catholic school. It cost a lot of money to go to Archmere, so Joe washed windows and picked weeds there to help his parents pay for school. Then Joe went on to study political science and law. So he ended up going after he graduated to the University of Delaware. Um, and yeah, he actually was a really hardworking student. um, he was a really good athlete as well. He played football at Archmere Academy and in college. His coach said Joe was a great player, so he actually he still loves football to this day. He's not just like, oh yeah, football. Like he genuinely loves football. Anybody here like American football? Do you guys know what American football is? Anyone? Any fans? Any fans? Ah, yes, yes, yes. You hate it. It's okay, Michael. I gotta say, I'm not a fan. Super Bowl. Super Bowl's fun. Super Bowl is fun. Yeah, you like it, meh. So so. Basketball though is where it's at for most people. It seems basketball. I really like football, like soccer. All right, let's talk a little bit about teenage Kamala and about her life when she went to college and things. Um, in middle school, her mother moved from Oakland to Montreal, Canada. So after she divorced her father, after her mother divorced her father, she tried to focus on her career more. Her mom actually was an endocrinologist and actually did a lot of research on cancer. And her mom felt like in California, her family and her relatives were kind of holding her back, not encouraging her to develop her full potential. So for that reason, they moved to Canada. And then Kamala actually started being very politically active even as a child. So at age 13, she had her first protest, and it was against the Xiaochu, the neighborhood where she lived. The neighborhood that she lived in, they would not let children play on the grass. And that made Kamala and her sister really mad. So they made signs and they went and they marched around the Xiaochu and they told the management, like, you have to, let us play on the grass. And guess what? The Xiaochu, the neighborhood management was like, okay, fine, children can play on the grass. So she had her first protest and stared down the man when she was 13 years old. So pretty crazy, right? So little kid activist, man, like it goes to show you they can make some change. After she graduated school in Montreal, she attended this university called Howard University. Now, I want to mention this because this is kind of like the Harvard of the Harvard of schools for minorities in the United States. So this is just outside of Washington D.C. and it's actually a very, very, very well respected school for the education of Black and minority women. It's very, very well respected. It's so you might ask, like, why do they have schools for Black and minority women? It's partly because these women uh, have special obstacles, special problems that they have to overcome. And so what happened is some Black women in the Black community came together and said, well, let's make some schools that we know will serve us well and serve our community well. And they've done a really good job because this is one of the top universities like in the US right now. I'm not sure where it ranks, but it's very highly respected. But yeah, it's all minority education, and there's their crest there. This is Kamala when she graduated university. You can see her mom there, and then this is her father, Jamaican. Her mom actually died in 2013 from cancer. She was a cancer researcher for, I think, breast cancer, but she died of a different kind of cancer. All right, politics and heartbreak. So let's go back to Joe Biden. So Joe married his college sweetheart. That means a girl that he really, really liked, a sweetheart. So Joe married his college sweetheart, Nayla Hunter, in 1966. They started a family, and Joe became a lawyer. Soon, he also entered politics. He served on the local county council before being elected to the US Senate in 1972. In December of that year, tragedy struck. Joe's wife and baby daughter were killed in a car accident. his two sons were badly hurt. Joe had just turned 30 when he became senator, making him one of the youngest senators in history. So this is Joe Biden with his two sons. Okay. Let's see. It says Hunter on the left and then Bo on the right in 1972. So this must be either right before or right after his wife and his daughter died. So this is the picture of his wife, and you can see yeah, his wife and his kids there. So yeah. And then, man, it's also really sad. In 2015, Bo Biden, this was his oldest son, died of brain cancer. So Mr. Biden hasn't had exactly an easy life. He's had some really sad things that happened to him. But, you know, sad things and hard things, they're part of life, right? And sometimes these things can happen and we can feel like life isn't very fair. But how do you think people like Mr. Biden, or maybe some of your friends that have been through some hard things, or maybe some hard things that you've had to go through, how can we overcome? How can we uh, get back up when sad things happen to us? What do you guys think? Any ideas? What can we do when sad things happen? Being brave. Good answer, Lisa. What does being brave mean? Can you break that down? Comfort yourself? Yeah, sad things happen. It's okay to cry. There's a time to be sad. There's a time to cry. Anything else? Any other ideas? How can we be brave when sad things happen to us? How can we be brave? Any ideas? Yeah, going to church can help. This is important to think about because I hope you guys have a really good life and I hope it's awesome and not many sad things happen to you, but chances are something sad will happen at some point. Yeah, hitting somebody, probably not the best idea, Harry. Sometimes when sad things happen, we can talk to somebody. Going to church is good because that gives you some friends and community. So maybe if you're a Christian, you can go to church, but if you're not a Christian, maybe you can find some friends that you love and trust and you can talk with them. Yeah, calm down is important. Okay? Sometimes our life is a little bit like the weather, right? Is the weather always good in Beijing and Shanghai? Is it always sunny and beautiful? No, it's not always sunny and beautiful, right? But we know that the rain will be here for a few days. Eventually it will go away, right? And so sometimes when bad things happen in our life, we can remember this is a sad time and we can be sad and that's okay. But you know what? There will be a time for life to be good and happy again, right? So just like sometimes the weather is really bad and it's rainy, and we can remember, oh, okay, this will go away eventually. And we can find friends to talk to. Yeah, and we can try to think of some good things. Yeah, we can talk with our parents when sad things happen. Okay? That's good. Those are really good answers, guys. Yeah, it's okay to be positive, but sometimes it's okay to be sad too. Okay? When sad things happen, it's okay to cry. It's okay to feel them. But to talk with people, that's important too. So Joe Biden actually what he did, he actually was a Catholic and so he did go to church and he prayed a lot, but he was also really angry too. But eventually, um talking with people and being honest about how he felt, he was eventually able to heal and to be better. Yeah, talking to a friend is good. Okay? So when sad things happen, talking with our friends, talking with our parents, okay? Um, these are some things that can help us, right? Because you don't want to stay like this for the rest of your life. You know, 10 years later, right? We need to feel our emotions and we need to process our emotions and move on because sad things happen, but that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. All right, here we go. Let's move on. So, Joe was heartbroken over the death of his wife and baby. He did his best to take on his new job as senator and look after his two young boys. While most senators live in Washington, D.C., Joe stayed at home in Delaware so that he could be with his sons. That meant he had to travel 120 miles, 190 kilometers, almost 200 kilometers to go to work in Washington every day. He would actually take the Amtrak. Um, and actually, this is when he was sworn in to be a senator. A senator serves in the U.S. government. His son was still in the hospital, and actually, Joe was still in the hospital when he was sworn in. So yeah, that's pretty amazing that he was going almost 200 kilometers a day just to keep his family together. Like that's a lot of respect right there. He really wanted to be a good father. All right, let's talk a little bit about Kamala. So Kamala, after she graduated Howard, she went on to law school. I didn't see which law school it was, but it was in San Francisco. And she started as a lawyer in California in 1990. She worked really hard. She helped actually get women and girls out of bad situations in San Francisco and helped pass a lot of laws to protect women in San Francisco. Eventually, she became, like, we call it the DA, which means district attorney in San Francisco, and became the head lawyer. Um, and she kept working as the DA to help California fight injustice, like to help protect women and children. Um, yeah, so she served for a long time, and then eventually she got elected to senator, but we'll talk more about that later. So the White House. Let's go back to Biden here. As a senator, Joe became an expert in foreign policy. Now, foreign just means like Waiguo, right? So, foreign policy. He did well in his role and would serve in the Senate for 36 years. But he had big dreams that went beyond the Senate. In 1987, Joe ran for president, but he dropped out of the race early. He tried again in 2007, but he was no match for Hillary Clinton and backed Barack Obama. So, his first run for the president was in 1987. Actually, what happened in 1987, he misquoted. So actually, okay, kids, this is important. He said something, but he didn't give the right person credit for the quote. So he quoted somebody, but he didn't actually give the right person quote. And because of that, people were like, "You're a liar. We don't like you." And so because of that, he stopped his run because he realized he had accidentally said something wrong. So, okay, boys and girls, listen carefully. When you are writing papers, if you take somebody's ideas or words, you need to make sure that you say that they were not your ideas, but that they were somebody else's, because that can get you in huge trouble, especially if you have an American or a foreign teacher, okay? We call that plagiarism. It's a form of stealing, okay? So actually what happened in 1987 is Joe Biden, he said something, but he didn't say that it was another person's idea, and that got him in really big trouble, okay? To us, that might seem like a small thing, but for him, he was like, I gotta stop. I did something, I screwed up too big. So make sure that well, how did they know that how did they expose him? Basically somebody else was like, I'm pretty sure that wasn't his idea. And then they did the research and they're like, look, that wasn't yours. And that cost him his opportunity to be president in 1987. So make sure that when you are saying, quoting other people's ideas, that you give him credit, okay? Um, so anyway, he realized he made a mistake and he tried to do better next time. Then he tried again in 2007, but Hillary Clinton just ran, didn't work. And then finally in man, I forget what year it was, when he ran with Barack Obama as a VP, that's when he became vice president. So he's actually Barack Obama's vice president. Oh, and happy note, he got remarried in 1977. He married Jill Jacobs. That's the current First Lady of the United States. Hello. There we go. Still, Joe's hopes for the White House were not yet over. When Barack was nominated for president, he picked Joe to run as his vice president. In 2008, they were elected to become the country's top leader. Joe's main role was to help the president with foreign policy and the economy. Joe and Barack worked well together. Soon they became close friends. So actually, Barack Obama, he made it a point to eat lunch every day, or not every day. I think it was every Wednesday. Once a week, he would sit down and they would have like a lunch and they would discuss policy together. And so actually, Joe Biden and Barack Obama really worked quite closely together. So yeah, I guess additional to that lunch meeting I mentioned, it says here, every morning they talked about what was happening in the country. They often met multiple times a day, but at least, yeah, it was at least once a week that they were having like a full-on sit-down lunch meeting. So yeah, that he worked very closely with Barack Obama. In 2012, Barack and Joe were reelected. They would serve 4 more years as president and vice president. Joe worked hard on issues such as stopping gun violence, creating more jobs, and supporting energy. That does not harm the environment. Barack wanted to show the world how much Joe had done for the country. He gave Joe the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Okay, so the Presidential Medal of Freedom is basically an honor that the president can give somebody he selects. And so, yeah, Barack had a lot of respect for Joe Biden and gave it to him. And yeah, like I mentioned, yeah, during his time as vice president, Joe's son, Beau Biden, died of cancer. Um, and even though like his son died of cancer, I mean, like that's hard stuff. Like he's lost what, like a wife, a daughter, and now a son. But instead of just being like, oh, I'm sure he was very sad. I'm sure he cried, but he actually has been funding efforts to find cures. So instead of just being like really sad and angry, he said, you know what? I am going to try and find a way to help people so that no more people have to die of brain cancer. Okay, so he helped with funding for that. So that's another thing that we can do when sad things happen. Like um, try to find ways to help comfort other people too, because if you've gone through something sad, probably someone else can go through that same thing. And so we can look for ways to help make the world better, so maybe fewer people go through that same pain that we had to go through. So there's a lot of ways that we can use sad things to, yeah, but we can get back up after sad things. So one of the things he did was he led an effort to help find a cure for brain cancer. And now that he's vice president, he'll probably or not vice president, now that he's president, he'll probably put more money towards cancer research too. All right. Third time's a charm. You guys ever heard that idiom? The third time's a charm. That means the third time you try something, you're probably going to get it. So don't quit the second time. Don't quit the third time. But yeah, we say the third time's a charm. Yeah, seventh time was a charm for you. Perfect. Yes, right? So, sometimes you have to try many, many times before you finally figure out what works. And that's what Joe Biden had to do. That's actually what a lot of people have had to do. Thomas Edison, I think he had well over 100 versions of the light bulb. Thomas Edison, he invented the light bulb. He had tried over 100 times to make the light bulb before he finally found one that kind of worked. So, You know, don't quit the second or the third or the fourth or the seventh time. Keep going, okay? Anyway, moving on. The third time's the charm. After his job as vice president was over, Joe continued to work hard and fight for what he believed in. But it wasn't long before he was back in the same position he had been before. In 2019, he decided to run for president. In 2020, he won. Joe's vice president. This is Kamala Harris. Okay. Yeah, and we mentioned first vice president. Well, did that? Oh, okay. Edison didn't invent the light bulb. Well, the modern version that we know today, William, and he's who gets the credit. But yes, William, you're right. Actually, Thomas Edison. Yeah, he was actually okay. Known for stealing other people's ideas, particularly one guy's idea, Nikolai Tesla. Maybe we'll do a talk about him next month. Anyway, but yes, you're right. He didn't full on invent it, but he modified existing versions many times. And he actually had a whole bunch of people working with him, but he didn't give up. He didn't give up the first 20 times. He kept trying. So that's the point. Jack Ma too, right? Like he had a bunch of ideas and he kept trying and trying, right? And then finally he got it. He found one idea that worked, and now he's Alibaba. Woohoo! All right. So a little bit about Kamala Harris's ascent to power. In 2013, she was selected. Well, it was rumored, they're not sure, but they thought she was going to be maybe a Supreme Court justice. So this is like the highest judge in America. There's 9 of them. So in 2013, people were like, maybe Barack Obama will want her to be on the Supreme Court. But she said, look, I don't want to be on the Supreme Court. In 2016, she ran and she won for U.S. Senate for the state of California. So this is kind of where she starts getting more popular. And then, so a senator's term is 6 years. But then in 2019, she was selected to run for vice president with Joe, or it's not, sorry, she was started to run for president. So she was senator of the state of California. And then in 2019, she started to run for president. But she realized, in December 2019, she was like, I got no money. I have no more money. I can't be president because I don't have enough money to like get people to listen to me. She didn't have enough money to keep campaigning. And so she stopped running for president at that point. But then Joe Biden in August 2020 was like, who's that senator from California that has, great law expertise and is really clever? And so Joe Biden actually selected her to be his vice president. And so, yeah, that's her story. So, yeah, regardless of, how you feel about President Joe Biden or Vice President Kamala Harris, wish them good luck. Hopefully they will govern America with and get some good things done. So that is what I have about Vice President Kamala Harris and President Biden. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, let's take a moment and we can open up the stage and open up the mic. And if you have some, you can signal Ivy admin, and yeah, we could do it. But no asking me about if I like him or don't like him. I won't tell you.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. I would like to ask one question, which is about, is it really important or must be to count on the absentee ballots and the mail-in ballots? Because the former president has said that it couldn't be counted on the absentee ballots and the mail-in ballots. He said that it should be only counted on the ballots that it was voted in the live or in the machine. It shouldn't be counted in mail-in ballots because he thinks that it was maybe fake. So do you think it is really important to count out the absentee ballots and the mail-in ballots?
Well, Brandon, I live overseas. I live in China and I am an American citizen. And in previous elections, we've counted them. Also, something to consider with that is the military vote. Okay, the 军人, the military. So a lot of the military personnel are overseas and they are fighting and risking their lives for the country. And it seems like their votes should count too. But I do think it is important that we consider the possibility of fraud, and maybe we need to make sure that we have a way to get absentee ballots in that is more secure than previously, if that is a big concern. But to not count absentee ballots is kind of disrespectful to the military, because a lot of the military and a lot of the military's families are overseas and they're fighting for democracy. So you would hope that they would have a say in who the next president is.
Yeah, but the question, the mainly point is I would like to ask is a lot of Biden fans, which they called was to send mail-in ballots because of COVID, but the former president don't want to count it on. So do you think it is really important to count those ballots on because the former president think it is probably fake?
I think we should count the ballots. Yes, I think that counting, if because COVID-19, it's been going on for a while now, and this might happen again in the future. And so it is important that we have ways for people to vote safely. And part of the way that people were trying to be safe was to do early voting or mail-in ballots. But maybe what we need to do is we need to uh, change how the mail-in ballot system works a little bit. Maybe you have to go and you fill it out at the post office and somebody verifies that it is you sending in the ballot. I understand the former president's concern, but I still think the mail-in and the absentee ballots, that they are important. And so maybe we can do a little better with it next time.
Oh, so okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, good question, Brandon.
Hi.
Malige.
So my question is, how does Joe's wife and his sons died? And I don't know why the sons died, because in the book it says the sons only got really hurt when the car accident.
Good question, King. I'm sorry I didn't make that clear. So when Joe's wife had the car accident, his wife died when the car hit her. Okay, they were in a car. She was in a car with the 3 children. So his wife and his daughter died when the car hit them. Okay, but the 2 other boys, he had 2 other boys, 2 other sons named Hunter and Bo. They survived. Okay, so they survived. But then 40 years later, Bo got brain cancer, and then he died of brain cancer in 2015.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for asking a good question.
Okay, thank you a lot.
All right, thank you, Kay. Thank you, everybody. It was a good night. I hope you enjoyed something and you learned. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned something.